So, 6 months after our wedding, my wife and I decided to have a child. We approached the matter seriously. We underwent all the necessary tests, had medical checkups, and then conceived the child. The pregnancy proceeded normally, without morning sickness or hysteria, no strange cravings from my wife, though I did spoil her with treats within reason. In terms of intimacy, I had some psychological barriers, even though I knew in theory that up until a certain point, I couldn't harm anything. Still, I subconsciously feared it, and her growing belly made things a bit more challenging. My wife's boss was a bit of a maniac, and kept bothering her, saying she hadn't worked long enough before going on maternity leave. But my wife worked for a government agency, so her boss wasn't paying her from her own pocket. Moreover, my wife was hired as a temporary replacement for someone else on maternity leave. The situation escalated to hysterics, but I supported my wife, giving her advice on how to talk to her boss. After she had a conversation with her boss, where she mentioned that the labor inspectorate would be involved, the boss calmed down. The first 2 trimesters of the pregnancy were the toughest. I had to get used to the belly, limit myself with food and activities, etc. After that, it became a habit. The 3rd trimester was the most peaceful, as I read. This is the time when women are the sweetest, kindest, most naive and funniest. One particular moment stuck in my mind. I came home from work one evening, and my wife was so cute, round and smiling. She greeted me with a kiss, and went to start preparing dinner. The house was warm, clean and smelled nice. An idyll. I walked over to the computer, and there was Counter-Strike minimized. I opened it, and to my surprise, my wife was ranked 2nd or 3rd, with 30-40 kills. Then, when the time came, one night at 5 a.m., I heard some grunting. I woke up and saw my wife in a kneeling position, grunting. I asked what was going on, and she said she needed to go to the bathroom but couldn't, and it felt better this way. The first sign of labor. I immediately realized what was happening. I said, "Babe, you're in labor." I started getting ready and called an ambulance. The ambulance arrived, and the doctor said, "That's it, you're in labor, let's go to the hospital." We got dressed, it was winter, early December, went downstairs and headed out. We lived in the southeastern part of the city, and the hospital was in Mikhailovka, which took about 40 minutes by car. Around 7 a.m., we arrived at the hospital, and the doctor handed my wife over to the maternity ward staff. They undressed her, and took her upstairs. Here's where my story begins. I undressed, handed over my things, and was about to follow my wife. We had already agreed that I would be participating in the birthing process, which we had informed the doctors about. The nurse blocked my way, saying, "No, you can't come in, you don't have slippers or clean clothes." I was wearing clean leggings and a t-shirt and explained this to her. She insisted that I didn't have slippers. I noticed that there were around 12 pairs of slippers lined up nearby, and I said, "Well, I didn't know I needed slippers, can I wear these?" She replied, "No, those are visitor slippers for those in private rooms." I said, "Come on, it's 7 a.m., and visiting hours start after 4 p.m., can I wear them just this once?" She refused, stating, "No, it's not allowed." I stood there, looking at her, feeling a surge of anger inside. I was in Karaganda with my wife, our parents were in Semipalatinsk, and she had no one else but me. How could I leave her alone in such a moment? I was about to lose my temper, maybe even slap the nurse and push my way up to my wife, but then a security guard intervened. He was a good guy. "Hey, is this your first time?" "Yes." "Did anyone mention slippers?" "No, of course not." "All right, let him through." The nurse mumbled something, but the security guard grabbed a pair of slippers and handed them to me, saying, "Go to your wife." I rushed upstairs, and when I saw my wife on the verge of panic, dressed in a transparent hospital gown, standing in the corridor waiting for me, I felt relieved. She breathed a sigh of relief when she saw me, and we entered the delivery room. At that moment, both operating rooms were occupied, and the midwife advised my wife to sit on a big ball and walk around the room. I was asked to massage her lower back. We walked around for about 3 hours, then breakfast was brought for my wife, porridge, bread, and some compote, just for her. She was very hungry, so she ate, while I had a small piece of bread. We continued walking, the contractions started, and all the doctors were busy in the operating rooms. Fortunately, at that moment, a professor from the gynecology and obstetrics department of the medical college was there with her students. She assisted with the delivery, alongside the midwife. During the entire process, I was with my wife, holding her hand. She later told me she was very grateful I was there, and that she wouldn't trust anyone else with something like that, not even her own mother. The labor was quick. Contractions started at 11:20 a.m., and by 11:45 a.m., my son was born. He was immediately handed to my wife. I have to admit, I was very nervous. My blood pressure shot up, and I started bleeding from my nose. But it was just a minor thing. Once everything was over, I spent another 15 minutes with them, and then I was asked to go out and buy adult diapers. I ran to the nearest pharmacy, bought them, and handed them to the midwives. They didn't let me back in and told me to return after 4 p.m. I called my mom and mother-in-law, shared the good news, and asked my mother-in-law to come. She left the same day. I took a bus home, nearly falling asleep. When I arrived, I took a quick nap for an hour, then started packing things and buying groceries. After lunch, I went back to the hospital, delivering the things, food and phone for my wife. The next day, I met my mother-in-law, and the wife's grandmother. We spent the whole day running around the city buying baby supplies, and the following day we went for the discharge. What did I feel when I took the baby in his blanket from my wife? I don't know, it's hard to describe. Maybe it was awe, knowing that in this huge blanket was a small new person, my son. I felt a little anxious. How could I not harm him? He was so small, so fragile, but I also felt joy that it was all behind us. Did I feel like a father at that moment? Probably not. Not yet. It didn't quite hit me. I must say that for a few days, my mother-in-law and wife's grandmother took over all the household chores, cooking, washing, etc. The first 4 months were difficult. Our son didn't sleep most of the night, like most babies. There were gas pains, colic. We took turns staying up all night, with my wife, of course, doing most of it, since I had to work. We were both exhausted, arguing about the lack of sleep, and the fact that she was spending more time with him at night than I was. Honestly, for the first 3 months, I didn't feel like a father, and I didn't perceive the baby as my son in my soul. To me he was just a source of constant crying, dirty diapers, and sleepless nights, rather than some abstract joy. And then, suddenly something changed. I felt like a father when my son started recognizing me, smiling at me with his funny toothless mouth, wrinkling his nose cutely, babbling to me in his little language, trying to catch my finger with his tiny soft hand. It warmed my heart when he would calm down in my arms, resting his head on my shoulder, when he fell asleep as I rocked him, and sang the song The Horse by the band Layubi. That's when I realized I was a father, and that feeling has stayed with me to this day. As he's now almost 5 years old, my son loves me, he loves spending time with me, and constantly asks, "When will Dad come home from work?" He looks at the clock every evening, waiting for it to be 6:30 p.m. so I can come home, and we can spend the evening together. And I return his love. I'm happy to be a father. I feel joy when I see him shaping things, drawing, building, or telling us something. I cherish every minute we spend together. Yes, it was hard in the beginning, but to overcome difficulties, all you need is patience, understanding, and support for each other.